Hello friends, my name is Rohit Bansal. Today I am going to talk about email security. The email service is a very convenient way to exchange messages between two communicating parties. Most of us use email service in our everyday life for a lot of formal and informal communications. The email service is supported by protocols like SMTP, which is called as Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, POP3, which is also called as Post Office Protocol, and IMAP, which is Internet Messaging Service Access Protocol. These protocols provide security to the conventional email service that we use. Now, in this modern digital age, email spoofing and email forging are very potential threats. So, there is a need to understand the security properties or the security attributes that are in place in our conventional email service, and if needed, how can we have some additional security attributes or security properties in the conventional email, so that without disrupting the communication between the sender and the receiver, it can avoid email spoofing and it can detect whether the email is forged or not. In this session, we will basically discuss about the security aspect in the conventional email service, which is supported by SMTP, POP3 or IMAP. After that, we will also discuss how one can have some additional security properties like identifying source of the email or the sender's authenticity, and how to detect whether the email is altered or forged. Now, let us look at the aspect of how we can get additional security properties and what are the security protocols that should be implemented on top of the protocols which are already provided for security in the conventional email service. We have already seen public key cryptography and symmetric key cryptography and their uses in various applications. Now, here we will see how both of these can make our email exchange more secure. As we know, the email format, which is provided by RFC 822, has one header field and one body field. The header field contains some keywords, for example, date, time, from field, to field and the subject field. The body contains the actual mail information or the purpose of the email, and there must be one blank line between the header and the body. So, this is the RFC 822 format. In the modern email service, one very important object is used, which is known as multipurpose internet mail extension or MIME. This is an extension to RFC 822, which had some limitations. To avoid those limitations, MIME or MIME is used. This MIME specification defines new message header field, and a number of content formats are also supported, which enables the mail to have different type of attachment, including multimedia content as well. Some content transfer encoding schemes have also been defined in the MIME specifications. If we go by the conventional email exchange, then we can fulfill our basic requirement of a simple conversation, but sometimes if the email content has some sensitive information, then this conventional email exchange may not provide the required security, and here we might need some additional security features. For example, whenever we receive an email, we do not know for sure whether that email was sent by a particular sender or not, or the content of the email is authentic or it has been modified by someone else. We read it and we continue, and sometimes this approach can be harmful as well. Let us try to understand this by an example. So, suppose there is a one web based email server in which the interface is already provided and one can just fill information in the body of the email. The from field can be given very easily and it will have the sender's email ID. The to field will have the receiver's email ID. then we will write the subject of the email based on the target goal. Then the body will contain the main information, which is the main purpose of the email. In this way, a mail can be composed very easily, and it can be sent by just clicking on the send button. When the receiver will open the email, in the from field, he will see that who has sent him this email. Let us suppose that it is from a CEO of a big corporation. Then he will see the subject field, which will tell him the purpose of the email. Let us say that it contains a title as job offer. The body of the email will contain a very polished write-up because it is coming from the CEO. Now, after seeing this, if the receiver accepts that this email has been really sent by the CEO of a big corporation, whereas in reality it was created by someone else using the web based email compose feature, then accepting it would be the receiver's mistake. So, what can he do? He can write back to the sender to confirm the authenticity of the source of the email. But if he does not do that and immediately starts acting as per the instruction in the email, then he may commit a mistake. So, here as far as the security of the email service is concerned, the problem is that the source or the origin of the email is not authenticated by the receiver. If you are not authenticating the source of the email or the sender, the acting immediately after receiving the email, then there may be some problems. So, you have to first check whether the sender has really sent you this email or not. The authentication of the source of the origin of the email is really very important, and this feature is not provided in the conventional email exchange. If the body of the email or the content is in the plain form, then somebody may alter it and can change the purpose of the email entirely. So, the content is not protected. In case of sensitive dialogue or for a sensitive message exchange, it must be protected. It must be confidential between the sender and the receiver only. Any third party apart from them should not be able to understand that what is being communicated from sender to the receiver. So, message confidentiality is another feature that is not there in the conventional email exchange. Now, the sender and the receiver are exchanging some sensitive information, then they may require to have this security feature in place. In order to do that, there are two commonly used email security protocols: SMIME, which is called as Secure MIME, or PGP, which is also known as Pretty Good Privacy. PGP is open source, but SMIME is not. But both of these can provide additional security properties for that email service. The additional security properties which can be achieved on email application includes following. Number 1, message origin authentication. The information about who is sending the email or the sender authentication, which can be achieved with the help of digital signature. Number 2, message integrity. The surety that the email content has not been altered by someone else, which can also be achieved by digital signature. Number 3, message confidentiality. The facility of using an encryption algorithm for encrypting the body of the email so that it becomes confidential and can be read only by the sender and the receiver, nobody else. Number 4, non-repetition of the origin. If the sender is sending any mail with their digital signature, then he cannot deny sending it. So, these are some of the important security requirements for modern email security services, which the receiver of the email can be sure that this email has come from a person by seeing the digital signature of the sender, which means that authentication of the message origin, and only the receiver will get to know the message and no other person will learn anything about it, which means that message confidentiality of the email content. it can also be assured that the sender cannot deny sending that email by putting a digital signature of the sender in the email, and message integrity must be intact so that no one could alter the content of the email. All these features can be provided or supported by both Secure MIME and PGP. We can enable any of these two protocols in our conventional email service, and then we will have these additional security features to avoid that vulnerabilities which we had mentioned earlier. In an encrypted email exchange, the sender encrypts the email and the receiver has to decrypt it. This can be done using public key cryptography or symmetric key cryptography. Now, in this, when the sender is sending the email, he will select one random secret and it will be encrypted by recipient's public key, which is known to the sender. After that, the actual email message will be encrypted using that random secret by a symmetric key and encryption algorithm, and then the sender will send this encrypted message and the encrypted key to the receiver. After receiving the email, the receiver will first of all open that encrypted key, which he will have to decrypt using his private key. So, now he will have the knowledge of the symmetric key. Using that symmetric key, the recipient can decrypt the message, and then he will know that the content of the email is coming from a secure channel. This is how encrypted email feature works. Now, let us discuss about the signed email. In this, the authenticity of the sender is provided completely, but there is no confidentiality. Here also, the public key cryptography will be used. A digital signature will also be used here. The sender will create an email and he will sign the message of the email using his private key, which is nothing but a digital signature. Then that signed message will go to the receiver, who can verify it using the sender's public key, which is known to him. If the verification is successful, then the receiver will accept this email as an authenticate email which has come from an authenticate sender. So, the authentication of the source of the email or authentication of the sender is confirmed and the integrity of message is also provided. Now, if you want both the feature of encryption as well as the digital signature, then it will also have to have a similar kind of a logic. For providing confidentiality, the actual message will be encrypted with symmetric key encryption algorithm, and for that a symmetric key is selected and that key is encrypted by the receiver's public key. Then the sender will sign all this using his private key. After that, the mail will go to the receiver, and receiver will first verify the digital signature using the sender's public key. Then the receiver needs to know the symmetric key. So, he will decrypt that encrypted key using his private key. In this way, he will know the symmetric key using which he will decrypt the email, and then he will be able to read its content. So, this is the way by which both these features can be enabled together. In this way, we have all these different options. If we are using Secure MIME or PGP, we can have the decrypted email, we can have the signed email, or we can have a combination of both. So, technically we can achieve authentication, confidentiality, integrity and non-repetition, all of these features in our email service. One more thing that we need to mention here is that you enable Secure MIME or SMIME and PGP, although you have additional security properties or additional security features in your email application, but some limitation would still be there because the header is not encrypted. The body can be encrypted, but the header, which includes the form field, the to field, date and time and the subject cannot be encrypted. The subject of the email provides very valuable information. It provides the essence of the purpose of the email or the metadata of the email body or the email content. Suppose the email content has an offer letter, then the subject line will say job offer, or if the email content has an announcement about your marks, then the subject line will say scorecard or mark sheet, etc. In this way, according to the content of the email, the subject line will provide a valuable information about it. But in both secure MIME and PGP protocols, the subject is not encrypted. In such situation, if the subject is providing a very valuable information, then some malicious party can get that information and they can also know about the purpose of the email exchange. Then they can try to figure out about the actual content. Since the subject is not encrypted, so the challenge here is that how can we protect that subject so that any malicious party or attacker adversary will not be able to learn anything about the email or the purpose of the email. This is one interesting research problem. So, some research literature is available in which some people have suggested some solutions by which the header of the email can also be protected, but in practice no such proper protection method is there. So, this is one problem here. In this way, it is a major problem with both the protocols SMIME and the PGP protocols that the header cannot be encrypted. It may not be necessary to protect the from and the to fields, but if we can protect the subject field, then it will also provide some additional strength to our email security service. I hope you would have understood the email security service and the challenges faced and the current status of this.